Jaeunsubhakij,
Regina, Bernardo,
and Naya, Jorgensen.
Make our statements on life by sharing stories, advice, perspectives, and laughs. Yes, the title is a misnomer, and while we're still working on the strength thing, we're happy to depend on each other as life changes and goes on. Today we will be tackling a topic that it's not like controversial in any matter, but
No.
I think a lot of times people don't trust that like teenagers can talk about it effectively. So we will be talking about love.
We gotta stop introducing things like that.
And today specifically we're talking about romantic love because I think we could do like a full hour if we went into like other types of love. But
just be tea.
we will be focusing on romantic love. Right off the bat, do you believe in soulmates?
Yeah, I would say I do.
Yeah.
But I believe in soulmates, like, plural. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure.
Like, I don't think there's any way with, like, nearly 8 billion people on the planet that you have one person you're meant to be with. That's crazy, you know? And just, like, think of all the people that, like, you meet in your life, and especially the ones that you don't meet.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think it's possible. I also think that, like, you have someone you're meant to be with at different stages in your life, or like there are times in your life where you're just really not meant to be with someone.
It's fun.
Shout out to Joy's neighbors.
Just ignore it.
But yeah, like I feel like there are like stages in your life where you do need to be with a certain person, and then just times when like you don't need to be with anyone. You know?
Yeah.
I think
My vocal teacher this summer said, like a weird person to hear it from, but she said that like people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? And she was like, you guys are all just a season to me. And we were like, okay. And she's like, but I may be your reason. It was on like one of our last days of class, but
romantic love with Joey's vocal teacher.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think it's just about believing, maybe not in like soulmates, because that does kind of imply one person, but like just the idea that like certain relationships are meant to be, you know? Like I definitely believe in fate, but I also believe that there's a certain amount of like choice. Like you may realize that you're meant to be with someone, but that means you have to like work for it and put in the time and like choose to be with them. So it's like a mix. But yeah, I definitely believe that meant to be is a thing.
Yeah. I believe that like you have soulmates for like different aspects of your life. So like there's people where like we have that I know that like we have the exact same taste in books, and I believe they're like my book soulmate. Or like certain people that I talk about certain things with, like I know we're soulmates in that matter because they like just get me in that. So I think I definitely believe in like a soulmate in terms of like romantically and ending up with them at a certain point in time in your life, and then eventually someone for the rest of your life. But I also believe that like there are like little soulmates along the way. Do you guys think that love is a choice?
I don't think falling in love with is a choice, but I think staying in love is a choice to a certain extent. Like there will be things that they'll do that you think like this isn't the person I fell in love with, but you have to keep choosing to see the good in them every day.
Right. I mean, obviously I can't speak to this completely, but I have seen that a lot of people, when they either get married to like their high school sweetheart, middle school sweetheart, someone that they meet very early on in their lives, a lot of times like the phrase is always like, oh, you're not the same person that I fell in love with. Well, they're not, because people like learn and grow, and that's not a bad thing, but I think it's like continuing to love them for the person who they're becoming rather than the person they were. Because if you're so stuck on that idea of who someone was, like you're never going to be able to fully love someone for who they are.
Actually, that just reminds me, like I was talking to Dan the other day. He kind of got into this idea that like, I think that people get into relationships to grow together. It's kind of so much more than just like, I want to be with you because I like you. It's like, I want to be with you because you make me want to be a better person. And so at the end of the day, like, you really are different people, but it should be for the better. If you change for the worse, then sorry. Like, I guess it just wasn't for you. Right. But like, yeah.
And I also think that like, even, I mean, maybe you don't like love someone yet, but like you have to choose to see the good parts of them and know that like they can be better. You know what I mean? Like, to enter into a relationship, like, knowing that people have the potential to change.
Right. But I do think to a certain extent, like, with that mindset, you also have to be, like, cautious and, like, protect your heart, because knowing that, like, you can only change a person so much by being with them. At a certain point, it is their choice to change who they are, to become better, to be with you. And, like, even though, yes, there is good in everyone, at least I think so, you also need to recognize when the toxic traits that could potentially harm you in a relationship outweigh the good that there is, you know? I don't think that it's a bad thing to see good in everyone, but also recognizing what's best for you and them in terms of a relationship and not further harming each other.
I guess there's a difference between choosing to see the good and only choosing to see the good.
Yeah.
So the next question that I have is, do you believe in love at first sight?
What do you think, Joy?
I think there is, but I don't think that's, like, the end-all, be-all. Like, if you fall in love with someone at first sight, that's the person you're supposed to be with, you know?
I just think love is such a strong word. I think there's connection at first sight, but how can you love someone if you don't know them?
Right.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, I think that, like, with both girls and guys, there's a tendency to confuse attraction and love. I guess a lot of girls worry about, like, a guy, like, acting like he loves you, but he's actually just attracted to you. Because that's kind of how their brains work sometimes, right? Like,
I think that's how all our brains work.
For sure. And it's just
that it has to work that way. Otherwise, like...
Right, it's just that girls are raised to feel like you can't have sexual desire, or else, like, oh, it's bad and gross and you shouldn't. But, like, you know, that part of guys isn't stifled, right? So, like, there's attraction at first sight, very, very strong attraction that can drive you to pursue someone, and you may not love them.
I think a lot of times we create, like, the perception of someone in our head, and we have the tendency to fall in love with what we think they are rather than who they actually are.
Right.
And that's so dangerous, because then, like, that person will always fall short of your expectations, and that's nothing on them, but it's because you've built up, like, this version of them in your head. And, like, I have been, like, the perpetrator of that for so many different, like, crushes that I've had. Like, I think of them one way, and then I hear that they do one thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how on earth could they do that? That's not the person I love. And I'm like, wait, it is! I just don't actually know them.
Kind of like Naya, I agree on, like, the potential. You know, like, when you see someone, you're like, maybe something could happen. But yeah, I think love definitely is something that grows and, like, evolves. I think I read the other day that, like, people usually take 6 months to say I love you to each other.
5 months, yes.
Yeah, which is really funny. I did not know that. I've definitely never taken that long. So maybe, I guess it just varies.
Really?
Like, it's definitely the average.
So my next one is unrequited love stories.
So we're gonna be just, like, sharing our own experiences with this. Hopefully not to call anybody out, but
Yeah,
it's just
more,
It's just, like, stories.
It's like a therapeutic
like,
thing, and, like, just so that other people listening also just know that, like, I don't know, I guess if you didn't really know us, or, like, you have no idea who we are, this happened to us, you know? Like, we're human.
I think, yeah, hearing about other people who go through the same experience is just, like, and truly this isn't to rag on any of the people that we're talking about. Like, no one is obligated to love you back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it like, it's an experience that, like, each of us went through. And I think for me, it shaped a lot of the way I think about love and how I go about, like, loving people now. A lot of that was shaped from this experience.
Yeah, actually, like looking back on it now, I'm so happy with, like, the way that my experience has turned out, because like, I'm just, like, proud of, like, who I am. You know what I mean? Just to start from the ending, a little bit spicy right there.
Wow. Should I start from the middle?
So there was this guy that I was really good friends with, and I really enjoyed his company, and we were, like, best friends. And then I found out that he had feelings for me and I had feelings for him too. So, you know, not really unrequited, I think, dictionary definition. But then as time went on, I guess he just kind of realized that, like, he did not want to be in a relationship, which is something that I wanted. He wanted something less structured, and I just wasn't down for that, you know? And that caused, like, so much hurt and pain that lasted for, like, a good year of just, like, trying to figure out where the hell it went wrong. You know, I think it's one thing to start, like, kind of knowing that maybe they'll never love you back. It's another to start with the love and then to have that fade out over the course of, like, 2 months, and then just wonder, like, what did I do? But then, like, after, like, all that time, this sounds so cliche, but, like, it really does, like, turn out all okay.
Yeah.
And, like, I think perhaps before that, I was so, like, dependent on, like, what other people thought of me, especially, like, people that I liked in that way, you know? But then after going through that, it's just kind of, like, I don't need him or, like, anybody else to be, like, I'm really into you. For me to be, like, into myself, you know?
Yeah.
Into myself.
Yeah, and I feel like once I, like, got to that point of, like, clarity and, like, I was happy being alone and, like, only really needing my own mind to put me at peace. Also, just, like, I'm sure this happens for everyone, but once you kind of break off from someone that, like, you're really into, you start to notice, like, their flaws, right?
Yes.
To help you, sorry, but, like, to help you, like, get through tough times. And then once I, like, was able to process all of that, it was like, you know what, like, this really was the right move. It was, like, good to step away and be like, I don't want any relationship unless it's, like, the relationship you want to give me, you know? So.
Mine is hard because of, I think, the amount of time it went on for. Because you were saying yours lasted for, like, a year. Mine was, like, 5. I never really knew if it was legit or if I was just being, like, a stupid kid, because it happened through middle in high school. So I had, like, known him kind of in middle school. We were, like, kind of acquaintances, and then we got closer through some circumstances during 8th grade. All I wanted was to be, like, close to him, and, like, I was that in love with him that, like, I didn't care in what capacity we were close. I just wanted to be close to him, and I got it, right? We were super close friends for the rest of high school. The emotions that I would get from my interactions with him would dictate how my day would go. Like, if he was nice to me in the morning, I would have, like, a good day. Or if I was feeling, like, or if he kind of, like, brushed me off in the hallway and, like, didn't talk to me as much as he used to, I would have a terrible day. I felt like he could sense whenever I said I would be done with him, because then the next day things would, like, flip back around. So the weird part is, like, I started to get over it towards middle end-ish of senior year, and it was the most, like, freeing feeling ever. To this day, he's, like, one of my really, really good friends, and I love him to pieces, and I think, like, a part of me will always love him just because he's, like, the first guy I ever fell in love with. But I'm grateful for having gone through that experience, and I think I'm, like, a stronger person, and, like, I know how to handle my own emotions and, like, think internally, and how to, like, self-soothe, I think is the best word.
Yeah.
And find validation within myself rather than, like, whether he would talk to me that day or not. Yeah. Okay, my Naya's happy story.
Oh my god, it's time for me to be the token queer. Exciting. I love this part of the day.
The
Does it happen the day?
The day.
I find a way. In 7th grade, I came out, and, like, throughout 8th grade, I was, like, coming to terms with my sexuality, and, like, by the time I met this girl, it was pretty much just, like, yeah, like, this is who I am, but I was petrified of ever falling for one of my friends. Not just, I mean, it just seemed like a big no-no, because, like, I don't know, it almost felt like it would be me being disrespectful to them in a way, which is, like, internalized homophobia, or internalized biphobia, I guess, but, like, I guess I always assumed that the reaction would be, like, that's gross, like, I trusted you, we're close friends, how dare you have feelings for me?
So interesting.
Yeah, and so, like, you know, when I first, like, realized, like, I would, like, go in a corner of the changing room because I was petrified someone would think I was looking at them, and, like, so that was always the vibe. Right, but then I met this girl, and, like, I got, like, pretty strong vibes that, like, you know, like, it might work out. I didn't tell her because of, like, my fears, so I just kind of let it sit for a long time. But I often think of her as, like, my first real crush, because before her, like, it never felt like there were any stakes. Like, if someone rejected me, I'd get over it pretty quickly. But I had such strong feelings for her. Like, I asked her out. Not really. I was just kind of like, just so you know, I have feelings for you. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, that makes me so happy to hear. I think you're really cute, but, like, I don't know if, you know, like, a lot of things were up in the air.
Yeah.
I realized that all the things that, like, I really loved about her were also, like, just the things that made me want her in my life. And so, I don't know, maybe it's because there's, like, no like, I mean, if it's a girl and a boy being friends, there's always society's expectation, like, ooh, maybe there's something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was so easy for us to slip into the role of friends because, like, I was just like, okay, well, like, here's all the things that I love about her, and, like, it doesn't matter if it's romantic. Yeah, and, like, now, like, she's one of my best friends ever, and, like, she's gonna be in my life, like, for a very long time, if not forever. So, yeah, just a happy story with almost no conflict. But it is unrequited love, right?
Yeah. So those are just some of our thoughts on love. I think we could do a whole other love episode if we really wanted to.
could. There's so many things
Varied
to talk
experiences.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and make sure to stay tuned for the next one. We hope you've enjoyed listening to us, Week Dependent Women.